The Chinese have announced that they're going to go to the moon. In fact, they will probably beat the United States.
We were never able to see stars from the lunar surface or on the daylight side of the moon by eye without looking through the optics.
We have always looked up at the moon. It's a constant, unchanging presence in our night sky. But what if the moon isn't quite as familiar as we think? Thanks to powerful telescopes and daring missions, scientists are uncovering a lunar landscape full of secrets. Could there be more to the moon than just dust and rocks? Do we share our moon with unexpected visitors, microscopic or otherwise? Get ready to blast off on a lunar expedition as we explore the mind-blowing discoveries that are rewriting everything we thought we knew about the moon. The mystery of the Archimedes Anomaly. During the Apollo missions, the lunar orbiter spacecraft captured a series of photographs of the moon's surface. One of these images, taken from the eastern edge of a vast, dark lunar plain called Mare Imbrium, revealed a particularly eye-catching feature, the Archimedes crater. This enormous crater, which is 81 kilometers wide, is a fascinating scar left behind by a giant impact long ago. But the real intrigue wasn't the crater itself, it was something else that appeared in a famous photo of the area published in National Geographic magazine. Eagle-eyed conspiracy theorists spotted an unusual object towards the bottom of the picture. This oddly shaped object, resembling a long, narrow bottle, sparked their imaginations. They claimed it wasn't just a rock. It was an artificial structure, a platform of some kind built on the moon. Nicknamed the Archimedes platform, based on its location near the crater, this mysterious object was estimated to be 8 kilometers long and 1.6 kilometers wide, according to their calculations. But what exactly is this strange object? Is it really an alien structure, or is there a more down-to-earth explanation? Well, that's a question that nobody has been able to answer for sure. Scientists haven't figured out what this object is, and conspiracy theorists' idea of a giant platform isn't exactly the most likely explanation. Orange-colored soil. When you think of the moon, what color do you think its soil is? Most people imagine a dusty, gray world. Well, during the Apollo 17 mission, astronaut and scientist Harrison Schmitt stumbled upon something unexpected that wasn't your typical moon dust. As Schmitt explored the moon's surface,
How can there be orange soil on the moon?
he spotted a strange sight against the usual powdery gray landscape. At first, he thought a reflection from his spacesuit or equipment might be making the dust look different. But after taking a closer look, he realized he had found something truly remarkable: a patch of bright orange soil. This wasn't just any orange coloring. It came from a mixture of tiny reddish and black balls, along with broken pieces of these balls. These colorful bits were what gave the soil its unusual orange hue. The astronauts carefully collected samples of this strange soil, scooping it up into their special bags. But where did this orange soil come from? Scientists believe it has a very interesting backstory, dating back 3.5 billion years. Back then, a lunar volcano erupted, but in a way very different from volcanoes here on Earth. Instead of flowing smoothly like lava, the hot molten rock shot out in sprays due to escaping gas trapped inside. These hot droplets flew through the air and cooled down quickly, turning into the tiny glass balls that make up the orange soil. It's more like volcanic ash than regular soil. And if the lava inside the volcano had less gas, it wouldn't have exploded in sprays. Instead, it would have flowed slowly like regular lava, cooling and hardening gradually into a different type of rock found on the moon. Here is another mystery. The moon doesn't have a strong enough atmosphere to hold on to the gases that erupted from the volcano. So what kind of gas was it that caused the lava to shoot out in sprays? Scientists are still trying to figure that one out. One thing's for sure, the orange soil is a reminder that the moon's history is full of surprises. The Ukert. The moon is a fascinating place, covered in craters, plains, and mountains formed over billions of years. One particularly interesting crater is Ukert, named after a German historian. Ukert lies in a rugged area between two large, dark plains on the moon's surface, the Mare Vaporum to the north and the Sinus Medii to the south. Ukert itself is relatively unremarkable, but some people online have pointed to stranger features they believe exist within it. One idea is that there is a giant triangular-shaped object hidden inside Ukert, with sides measuring about 25 kilometers each. This supposed object is said to have a flat floor, steep walls, and even cracks or ditches running along its sides. Some believe there are high-quality photos of this object, but that they are classified or kept secret by governments or space agencies. These same people also claim there is a giant mountain rising up to 11 kilometers tall inside Ukert. That would be a truly enormous mountain, even for the moon, and scientists haven't been able to come up with a normal explanation for how such a mountain could have formed. The story gets even stranger. Some say this giant mountain actually looks like a cluster of towers, resembling a massive castle, or even a city with walls and towers. And if that wasn't enough, they claim computer analysis of light reflecting off these towers suggests they might be made of a completely transparent material, like giant diamonds. Now, scientists think it's very unlikely that there are giant diamonds or transparent castles on the moon. There is no evidence to support these claims, and they would be very difficult to explain with our current understanding of how the moon formed. So what's the real story? Well, scientists believe that the unusual claims about Ukert likely come from misunderstandings or misinterpretations of real lunar features. The moon is a complex place, and photos can sometimes create illusions or appear strange depending on the lighting and angle. For now, the mystery of the giant transparent towers remains just that. But that doesn't mean there aren't plenty of real wonders to discover on the moon. A castle on the moon? Finding a castle on the moon is not something most people expect, but a video circulating online has some UFO believers buzzing about a giant white structure spotted on the moon's surface. According to a group called Secure Team 10, the footage comes from a lunar orbiter satellite and shows a large white building on the moon. A man in Germany spotted the object and sent it to Secure Team 10 for analysis. The group says the structure is definitely out of the ordinary. It towers over the surrounding rocks and craters and casts a long shadow across the moonscape. They even say it looks a bit like a castle. Now, some people are a little more skeptical. They believe the object in the video is probably just another unremarkable rock on the moon. After all, the moon's surface is covered in rocks and mountains that can sometimes look strange, depending on the lighting and angle. So, is this video evidence of a moon castle? Well, without more information, it's hard to say for sure. Scientists haven't found any evidence of alien life or structures on the moon, and most experts believe this video is likely showing a regular rock formation. What do you think? The double crater on the moon. We have all wondered if there's life out there in space, and maybe even if aliens have ever visited us. What if they tried to make contact and we just missed it? Imagine an alien spaceship coming to Earth, only to leave disappointed because we were too busy to notice them. But what if there is evidence of a visit somewhere else, not on Earth, but on the moon? Scientists recently discovered something strange on the moon's surface, a double crater. This wasn't your typical crater formed by a meteorite. This one had two distinct holes next to each other. The eastern crater is about 18 meters across, and the western one is about 16 meters wide. It gets even more interesting. Scientists knew something was going to hit the moon in 2021 because they spotted a piece of unknown space junk hurtling towards it. They expected the impact to leave a single crater, but the double crater was a complete surprise. This double crater surprised even NASA. They had never seen anything like it before. Normally, when space junk crashes on the moon, it leaves behind a single crater. So, why two craters this time? One idea is that the object that crashed might have had big chunks of mass on either end. Regular space junk, like an empty rocket stage, usually has most of its weight at one end and an empty fuel tank at the other. This strange double crater could be a clue that the crashed object was something different. Now, this doesn't mean there is definitely an alien spaceship that crashed on the moon, but it does show that the universe can surprise us, and there's still a lot we don't know. Scientists are still figuring out what caused this double crater, and maybe someday we will have a definitive answer. Until then, it's fun to imagine the possibilities. The Shard. The moon has a long history of mysteries, and one of the most interesting was captured in a photo taken by the Lunar Orbiter way back in February 1967. In the image, there is a long, jagged feature that some have nicknamed the Shard or the Tower. This strange structure casts a long shadow across the moonscape, and if it really is a solid object, it would be enormous. According to Richard Hoagland, who studies unusual features on the moon, this tower could be as tall as 7 miles. Now, it's hard to imagine something that big just standing on the moon's surface. So, what could this thing possibly be? Some ideas suggest it might be a plume of dust or gas erupting from the moon itself. Others think it could be debris thrown out by a massive meteorite impact. But here is the interesting part. Mr. Hoagland says that there is no normal explanation for how this object could have formed naturally on the moon. Because of that, he believes it might be something built by intelligent beings. Is he right? Well, that's a question that scientists are still debating today. Finding water on the moon. If you have ever looked at pictures of the moon, you might think it's a dry, dusty place. But in 2009, scientists made a surprising discovery that could change everything we know about the moon. For years, a special NASA probe called L-Cross had been orbiting the moon, checking out the shadowy craters near the South Pole. These craters are super cold and never see any sunlight. Scientists suspected there might be ice hidden in these permanently dark areas, but they weren't sure. Finally, after years of work, the L-Cross mission reached its end. Instead of just letting the probe float around in space, NASA decided to put it to good use. They aimed it straight at one of the craters, Cabeus crater, and crashed it into the moon's surface. The crash was dramatic, but it helped answer a big question. The impact kicked up a huge cloud of dust and debris, and scientists were able to analyze what was inside. And guess what they found? Water ice. That's right, hidden beneath the dusty surface of the moon, there's actually a treasure trove of ice. This was a major discovery because water is essential for life as we know it. It's also a valuable resource that could be used for many things. Finding water ice on the moon opens up exciting possibilities for future lunar exploration. Scientists are now thinking about how to use this resource to establish a more permanent presence on the moon. It's a big step forward in humanity's journey to explore the moon and beyond. The unusual moon rock. In 2021, a rover named U22, built by China, was scooting around the far side of the moon when it spotted something strange, a rock that looked totally out of place. This wasn't your typical round moon rock. This one was long and pointy, almost like a giant shard stuck into the moon dust. Space experts were buzzing with excitement. The shard-like shape is what really has scientists curious. Most moon rocks get all smooth and round over time because of things like micrometeoroid impacts and super hot and cold temperatures on the moon. But this shard jutted out with sharp edges, like it just landed there yesterday. To get a better look and figure out what this rock is made of, the scientists controlling U22 are planning to use a special tool on the rover. This instrument acts like a super high-tech magnifying glass that can analyze the rock's chemical makeup from a distance. By studying the rock's composition, scientists hope to pinpoint exactly where it came from. Right now, the leading theory is that it's a chunk of a meteorite that slammed into the moon long ago. The moon gets hit by space rocks all the time, and this shard could be a leftover piece from one of those crashes. Finding this strange shard is a great reminder that the moon's surface, even though it seems quiet, is constantly changing. It is a dynamic place, shaped by impacts, dust, and even the harsh rays of the sun. U22's discovery shows that there's still so much to learn about our rocky neighbor, and future moon explorers might just find even more amazing things waiting to be discovered. Lens flare or aliens? The NASA's Apollo 15 mission back in 1971 made history as the first to land astronauts on the moon for an extended stay. Their upgraded lunar lander was basically a moon base in a box, packed with extra fuel and supplies. This allowed them to explore the dusty surface for an impressive 3 whole days. These 3 days were packed with adventure. The astronauts took multiple walks on the moon, each lasting between 4 and 7 hours. They collected rocks, conducted experiments, and even drove a special lunar rover around the craters. Back in orbit around the moon, the command module sported brand new cameras and equipment to capture all the action. The Apollo 15 mission brought back a treasure trove of data, including hundreds of still photos, miles of 16mm film, and even hours of color TV footage. These images and videos are a goldmine for scientists studying the moon, but they have also sparked some mysteries. One particular photo from Apollo 15 has some people wondering if there was something more going on during the mission. The photo shows astronaut David Scott exploring the moon's surface with a bright, glowing object hovering above him. Some believe this object might be evidence of aliens or other unusual activity. But before we jump to conclusions, let's look at the simpler explanation. Experts believe the glowing object is most likely a case of lens flare. This happens when bright light hits the edge of a camera lens and creates a weird hazy or splotchy effect in the picture. In this case, the sun was probably just out of frame, but its strong light snuck into the camera lens and caused the strange glow. That being said, this photo does raise an interesting question. Is that truly all there is to the picture? While the lens flare explanation is the most likely scenario, it's always fun to ponder the unknown and the possibilities that space exploration holds. Subscriber's Pick. Now it's time for today's Subscriber's Pick. This image has been making the rounds online, and it's definitely got people talking. It shows a red arrow pointing towards the moon, with what appears to be a long, strange object near it. Of course, the conspiracy theories are running wild. This huge, miles-long structure has just been detected moving above our planet close to our moon, they scream. Some are also saying it's a giant alien structure, while others are convinced it's some kind of government cover-up. Of course, there is no way to know for sure what the object in the image really is. It could be a hoax, or it could be something completely mundane that just looks strange out of context. But one thing is for sure. If we ever did discover a giant alien structure near the moon, it would be a world-changing event. It would completely transform our understanding of the universe and our place in it. So, what do you guys think? Is this image the real deal, or is it just a bunch of hype? Let us know in the comments below. The strange moon dust. Since the first moon landing in 1969, astronauts have been collecting moon dust, and it's helping us understand the moon's history and even our own planet's past. This is because moon dust is like a tiny time capsule. It's made up of all sorts of particles that have been floating around in space for billions of years. By studying this dust, scientists can learn about the moon's formation, the history of the solar system, and even volcanic eruptions on the moon. In 2024, scientists spotted something strange on the moon using a powerful NASA satellite called the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. This satellite has been taking pictures of the moon for years, building up a giant catalog of images. The scientists used artificial intelligence to help them sort through over 1 million images. They were looking for any unusual rocks or features on the moon's surface. Using the artificial intelligence, they narrowed down the millions of images to a more manageable 130,000. That's still a lot of pictures to look at, but it was a much better starting point. And that's when they spotted something strange. They found some unusual rocks around a crater called Reiner K. These rocks looked normal at first, but then scientists noticed something odd. Dark patches of dust clinging to them. Now, regular moon dust is like 1 million tiny mirrors, reflecting lots of sunlight back into space. But the dust on these particular rocks seemed to be different. Instead of reflecting light, it was actually absorbing it, making the rocks appear darker. This was a mystery. The strange thing is that not all the rocks around Reiner K had this dark, clumpy dust. Some rocks were just covered in regular, light-colored moon dust. Scientists are still trying to figure out why this dark dust only stuck to certain rocks. One idea is that the dust might have been thrown out during the impact that created the Reiner K crater, but that doesn't explain why it only landed on some rocks and not others. It's a bit of a mystery. Luckily, there is a mission to the moon planned for the future called Lunar Vertex. This mission will actually collect samples from the moon, including some of this strange dust. Maybe then we will finally understand why this moon dust is so strange. Until then, it remains a fascinating puzzle waiting to be solved. UFOs or space junks. Have you ever seen a strange video online that makes you scratch your head? In May 2023, a video like that went super viral on TikTok. It showed 2 white objects, one big and one small, flying near the moon. The video caption simply asked, "What is this object near the moon?" Millions of people saw the video and wondered the same thing. In the short clip, which lasted about 30 seconds, one object seemed to stay still, while the other one moved a bit and even disappeared behind the moon. Of course, the internet went wild with theories. Some people thought the objects might be spaceships, while others were convinced they were proof that the moon is actually a giant alien space station. Which, let's be honest, sounds pretty wild. Nobody knows for sure what the objects in the video really are. The video doesn't say where it was filmed, and it's possible it could have been edited or faked. There is also a chance it might just be 2 satellites or pieces of space junk flying by the moon at the right time. So, what do you think? Is the video an elaborate hoax, or is there something more to it? The truth is out there, but for now, this video remains a mystery. One thing's for sure, though. It's a reminder that space is a vast and amazing place, full of things we don't fully understand. Maybe someday, with even more powerful telescopes and space exploration, we'll be able to solve mysteries like this one. the mystery of lunar granite. Sometimes the unlikeliest of things are found in the most unexpected places. In 2023, scientists made an amazing discovery hidden beneath the surface of the far side of the moon. They found a giant deposit of granite. Granite is a common rock here on Earth, but on the moon it's extremely rare. That's because granite normally forms when hot, melted rock cools underground. Here on Earth we have plate tectonics, which are giant slabs of rock slowly moving beneath our planet's surface. This movement can squeeze the magma and help it cool into granite. But the moon doesn't have plate tectonics, so scientists weren't expecting to find granite there. So, how did this massive granite deposit get on the moon? Scientists believe it might be a leftover clue from a time when the moon had volcanoes. They have always suspected that a certain region on the far side of the moon, called Compton-Belkovich, might have been volcanic because it's different from the rest of the moon's crust. Scientists can measure the heat coming from different parts of the moon. By analyzing this heat, they can sometimes figure out what kind of rock is down there. When they looked at Compton-Belkovich, it seemed to be giving off more heat than it should. They suspected this extra heat might be linked to ancient volcanic activity, but they weren't sure. To solve this mystery, they used special instruments to measure the temperature of the material under the surface. By analyzing the heat signature, they were able to crack the code. The only thing that could explain the pattern of heat they were seeing was granite. Finding granite on the moon with no water or plate tectonics is a real head-scratcher for scientists. It makes them wonder if the moon might have had more water in its past, at least in this specific region, or maybe it was just incredibly hot back then. Whatever the reason, this discovery is a major clue that helps us understand how the moon's crust formed billions of years ago. Future missions might help us dig deeper and solve the mystery of the moon's hidden granite. The curious case of Apollo 12's unidentified object. Astronaut photos from the moon landing missions are like a gold mine for space enthusiasts, but sometimes they can also be a source of mysteries. Here is a perfect example. A photo taken during the Apollo 12 mission that has some people wondering what's really going on. The photo shows astronauts Pete Conrad and Alan Bean suited up and exploring the moon's surface. Conrad is the photographer, and you can actually see his reflection in Bean's visor. You can also see some scientific equipment in the reflection, but that's not all. In the background of the photo, there is something strange hovering in the sky. Some people have nicknamed it the artifact. It even casts a tiny shadow on the ground. So what is this mysterious object? Conspiracy theorists have a field day with this one, suggesting it might be a UFO or some kind of alien technology. They argue that if the moon landings were a hoax, this must be proof.
Okay, everybody, let's hang tight and look for landing radar. We'll need that landing radar by 18,000 with this down track. Program alarm.
But before we jump to conclusions, let's look at some more likely explanations. NASA hasn't commented on this specific photo, but there are a few ideas about what the artifact might be. One possibility is that it's simply a camera glitch. Maybe a speck of dust or a scratch on the lens caused the strange light effect. Another idea is that it could be part of the lunar lander that was still in orbit around the moon at the time. The reflection in Bean's visor might be picking up something unexpected in the background. The truth is, we might never know for sure what the artifact really is, but it's a fun topic to ponder and a reminder of the wonders that await us in space. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.